God, you are. Every mountain, God, you are. Every ocean, God, you are. Every canyon, every inch of earth and sky, God, you are. Every morning, God, you are. Every midnight, God, you are. Every moment, every second of my life. Everything I see, everything I do, everything I am is you. Everything above, everything below, everything I know is you.
Good morning and welcome to Unity Church of El Cajon. My name is Robert Bright and I'm the pastor, and it's an honor and joy to invite you here to celebrate Spirit with us on this Sunday morning. Today we have a service filled with music, message, meditation. We are here to share in our joy for God, our joy for life, our joy in this world. And we trust that this time together is a time to celebrate all that there is in life, because we know that God's presence is here with us now. Will you join me in prayer? We thank you, loving God. We thank you for your presence that is always with us, and we thank you for your love that is so palpable into our hearts and into our minds. We thank you for our life experience that you have given us, that we are finding good in every moment of the day. And we claim your good right here and right now. In the joy of this moment, we claim this here and now, in the name and in the nature of the living Christ. Amen.
God, you are. Every sunrise, God, you are. Every moon glow, God, you are. Every star shine, every earth of earth and sky, God, you are. Every springtime, God, you are. Every snowfall, God, you are. Every season, every second of my life. Everything I see, everything I do, everything I am is you. Everything above, everything below, everything I am is you. 'Cause you are the very breath I breathe, and your perfect love created me. Everything I see, everything I do, everything I am is you. Everything above, everything below, everything I know is you.
Good morning. The daily word for today is release. The affirmation, I release all that does not contribute to my highest good. John's gospel tells of Jesus restoring life to his friend Lazarus, who had been dead 4 days. As Jesus cries, "Lazarus, come out!" his friend emerges from the tomb, burial cloth still covering his face and wrapped around his hands and feet. Jesus says to those who have gathered, "Unbind him and let him go." even after a spiritual resurrection, I may remain bound, like Lazarus, by thoughts, ideas, feelings, or habits that keep me from the full experience of freedom. Through my divine power of elimination, I release negative feelings, dissolve error thoughts, and free myself from habits and actions that do not serve my highest good. I am no longer bound. I am free. Scripture, John 11:44. The dead man came out, his hands and feet bound with strips of cloth, and his face wrapped in a cloth. Jesus said to him, "Unbind him and let him go."
Good morning. I invite you to settle back and get comfortable. Find a position that you can hold for a few moments as we prepare for this time of meditation. Please just become aware of your breath, breathing in deeply and breathing out comfortably, so aware. In this moment, as we settle back, I invite you to allow your awareness to slip from the here and now into something greater. As we enter this greater dimension, let us quietly and openly accept any inspiration, any ideas, any motivation that we can find together in the silence. Slowly and gently, as you are ready, allow these thoughts to come with you into the here and now. Taking a breath, becoming aware, perhaps open your eyes and give thanks for all that is around you, and be blessed by the inspiration that has found you in this time of meditation. Thank you.
Good morning. Will you join me in prayer? Thank you, loving God. Thank you for being here with us right now. I claim that it is through you that the words come forward, the thoughts become clear, that each of us come to this moment with an open heart and open mind to seek truth, and that truth is expounded in our lives. And for this, we are so grateful. Amen. And so the story goes. Traveling through the country, an old couple drives into a gas station, and the attendant asks the old man, "Where are you folks from? I know everybody in this town." And the old man says, "Well, we're from Nebraska." Hard of hearing, his wife nudges her husband and says, "What'd he say, Papa?" And the old man answers her, "He asked us where we're from. "Oh," replies the old woman. And then the man tells the attendant to fill up the tank and check the tires. That should give you an idea of how old this story is. When that's all done, the attendant tells the old man, "You know, the meanest witch I ever met was from Nebraska." The old lady nudges her husband one more time and said, "What'd he say, Papa?" And the husband replies, "He thinks he knows your mama." Well, today I'm going to talk about divine ideas and planting the seeds of divine ideas. So divine ideas come from the divine mind of God. And divine mind is not a thing. Divine mind is. And that's hard for our brain to understand because we tend to anthropomorphize God, don't we? We turn God into a person and let God have these human attributes. Well, in fact, our brains, because we have a hard time getting our brains around this idea that divine mind is, our brains are organs and they're tangible. And the mind is an invisible, intangible aspect of our life. Our mind uses the brain, but it is beyond the brain. And divine mind is essentially all knowledge, all power, all good, all strength. So divine mind is very much different than our understanding of a mind. So the mind of God is always present and accessible. And divine ideas like health and peace and love and prosperity, when they come as divine ideas, they are actually God ideas. And they're actually more than how we can understand them in our human form. So health, peace, love, and prosperity is in a greater degree and a greater principle than how we understand it as humans. But this power comes from divine mind, and they manifest through our thought forms, through our emotions, and through our actions. There's a Unity writing that tells us that divine ideals are inherent in the nature of God, and they're a man's inheritance from God. But in order to come into this inheritance, man must be ready to receive it as well as to claim it. So infinite mind or divine mind or God cannot inspire man with divine ideas before our human consciousness is ready to receive them. And until that time, the ideas are of no practical use because they're not recognized. They don't know how to be used. And they just pass by the wayside, or they fall to the ground, or they fall where the weeds of error thought choke them out. They're just stuck. But there are ways that we can work around that. There are ways that we can access infinite mind, divine mind, and we do that through our spiritual practices. We do that through our denials and affirmations, through prayer and meditation, through service and through giving. We practice fertilizing our consciousness. We practice claiming this inheritance, this spiritual inheritance that we've been given from God. Now, Jim Lewis was a Unity teacher many years ago, and he writes that Jesus said a sower went forth to sow his seed. Now, we know Jesus taught in parables, and he had in every gospel, I believe there is a parable about the seed. And in this particular gospel, he said, as he sowed them, some of them fell along the hard pathway where many people had walked and packed down the soil. And that was during a time when the farmers, when they did sow their seed, they didn't plow the soil beforehand. They just threw them into the ground. And since the seed could not take root, they were exposed on top of this hard ground. And the birds came along, and they had a feast. And then some of the seeds fell onto rocky ground. And the topsoil there was loose enough for the seed to take root. And they did, and they grew rapidly. But when the sun came out, they withered away because there was no depth to the roots. And then some seeds fell among the thorns. And as they tried to grow, they were choked out by the thorns. And then finally, some seeds fell on good ground and produced. And some of them produced 30-fold, 60-fold, and some even 100-fold. Now, Jim Lewis reminds us that the soil represents our consciousness. And each one of us may have a bit of each of the soils that I described in the parable. And each of us also have the power and the tools to overcome that type of soil. Now, the first type is symbolized by the pathway, the hard, packed soil. Now, we know that when we've walked on paths, how there's no grass, there's no greenery on the paths that we walk because they're well trod. But this represents, this particular kind of soil, this particular kind of planting, represents a person who is totally unreceptive to truth. Now, they may hear the words of truth, but they don't understand it. And as Jesus said, they have ears to hear, but cannot hear. When someone tells them about the truth, they're confused. And often they're defensive and always rejecting, because their consciousness is stuck in the mud. No pun intended. But even if they intellectually want to accept the truth that comes, their consciousness won't let them do it. Now, for example, sometimes, people will attend church and they like the teachings of the church, but it doesn't go any farther than that. And it's because their consciousness, or what I would say, their past is firmly implanted in their consciousness. They can't get beyond their past. And Jim Lewis tells us that, perhaps this person may need several incarnations to allow the truth to come through and to seek their way into awareness. Now, I've been thinking about these paths I'm going to talk about and how they relate to my own story, in my own life. And I remember as I was growing up in an evangelical church, I was taught this was the way it is. It was a rather God in a box kind of approach. We had the Word and we took that literally, and we took the teachings of God literally, the teachings in the Bible literally. And it didn't have much room outside of that box to grow. Now, within that box, you could grow and blossom all you wanted, but you had to keep the language, you had to keep all the thoughts that everyone else had as well. And I think about that because it was so hard to break out of that box, because these people told me it was true, and so I believed it was true. And when you're a part of a culture that is constantly reinforcing a truth to you, and you start rebelling against it or thinking outside of that, that's difficult to break. And so I think back on that time, my consciousness was not ready. It was not ready to hear truth beyond the past, beyond what it already knew. Now, the next type of soil that Jim Lewis talks about was the soil of the rocky ground. And Jesus said that this soil represents those who hear the words of truth and are happy to hear it. It's this like the beginning truth student who has the beginner's luck and when they start doing manifestations and they think the truth is great and it's going to help them become rich and successful and solve all the problems. However, then the pressures of life come upon them, and problems appear, challenges appear, conditions appear. And this individual gives in because they haven't developed a practice yet. They haven't developed a faith strong enough. There isn't a daily practice that is supporting them. And so the pressures are too much for them. They give in and they get stuck on this mental level, and they have difficulty taking root. And so those seeds of consciousness, those seeds of divine ideas, they don't last. And I was thinking back on my early life when I finally did leave my church. I was flitting around from teaching to teaching, church to church, religion to religion, philosophy to philosophy, seeking truth. I even was attending a Unity church for a while back then and found it very helpful. But one thing I do realize about that time in my life, church was more about an entertainment value. That I sat there and I was inspired and awed by the words that came out and the spirit that was shared. But once I left the church, that crashed sometimes. That crashed and burned really fast sometimes. And so that's what I realized about the rocky ground. That sometimes when we're seeking that and our seeds fall on rocky ground, it doesn't last. It withers and dies. And then we were told about the soil with the thorns growing with seeds. And Jesus said that this soil represents those who hear the word of truth, but use it selfishly to get things of the world. They are so materially minded that their greed chokes out the truth. Jesus referred to this as the deceitfulness of riches. Now, when we're in this process, there may be some exciting and pleasurable experiences, but that'll be about all. Because in the Gospel of Mark, it refers to this type of individual as one who is lusting after things. And the word of truth cannot grow in this type of consciousness. We must be willing to put aside all self-seeking. I'm going to repeat that. We must be willing to put aside all self-seeking. I repeated that for myself, for my sake. The individual may go on to go to God with a list of things that he wants God to do for him. And I'm just thinking to myself when I'm doing this, because I remember that list. I remember taking that list to God and said, this is what I want. And I'm affirming this right here and now, because that's what I was taught about prosperity. And I went through all types of mental gymnastics trying to demonstrate these things in my life. But Jim tells us, when Spirit speaks to them and tries to tell them that their personal plans will only lead to disaster, they refuse to give it up. You see, Spirit seeks to reveal another plan, one that is revealed through God. But to no avail when we're in that place of the thorny soil, we don't heed. We are too busy seeking our own seeds of selfishness and greed, and it chokes out the true seed of truth. But Spirit says again, give, and you shall receive. This is the way the human ego may take a long time to realize it, and it applies to those who study truth. You see, in that time, I kind of remember how I was so busy working towards the goal that I wasn't listening to Spirit. Spirit was saying, Robert, it's a good try, but I have another plan for you. I have another avenue, another way for you. And I wasn't listening. I was saying, oh no, God, I got this down. I know what I'm doing. I'm working 4 jobs. It's all coming. It's all coming to me. And then the Great Recession hit. 2 of those jobs out the window. They were 2 businesses that we owned, out the window. Our income down to a quarter of what we had. I truly understand what's going on for many people right now when your income disappears and you feel like it's overnight and you have no control in this. But what God was telling me was, Robert, you can't be selfish in this. You must open yourself up to the bigger you, the bigger picture, the bigger gift in this. And that bigger gift came. I'll go on. The fourth soil that is talked about in that parable is when we have the good soil. And this represents those who hear the word of truth, accept it unselfishly, and begin to bear fruit. Now, in the good ground, there are variations, as we said earlier, 30, times, 60 times, 100 times, and that good ground can be developed, further developed. It all kind of depends where we're at in life and how we're connected in to the consciousness, how we have let go of our human ego, and how we have geared ourselves to opening ourselves up to a deeper awareness and a growing conscious. And sometimes that develops slowly, so we must be patient. Must be patient. We don't always get the 100 times manifestation from our seeds immediately. Sometimes it's 2 times, 3 times. Sometimes it's a half. Sometimes it's 100. Sometimes it's 60. But the whole idea behind that is it is a growth. It is a continuing growing process. And that's why a daily regimen of study and prayer are so important. So I go back to my story, which was, where were we? Oh, yeah, we were in the Great Recession and lost everything. And God was saying, hey, I have a bigger plan for you. And that bigger plan came manifested through an opportunity to work for a starting hospice in Honolulu. I had no intention of being a hospice chaplain, but as soon as I saw that opportunity, I went, oh, here it is. This is why this has happened. This door is for me. And I went into that door fully expecting that I was going to get that job, and said that to the woman who interviewed me. I expect to get this job. And I want you to interview. She even mentioned a couple of the people that I was familiar with. I said, you need to interview those people. These are really good people. They have lots of experience. They have many gifts. But I said to her, I want this job. Whether it's two patients or 100 patients, I want this job. And that job came forward. Now, some of us don't know how to nurture the soil in our lives, and I understand that. I go through times in my life, too, where I'm not so sure how to nurture that soil. And for the most part, when we're there, we just kind of continue to do what we know, or what we've been shown or taught, or what we've observed. And sometimes we're willing to take the risk to nurture our soil and to allow those seeds to grow. In Luke 12, Jesus says, from everyone to whom much has been given, much will be required. And from the one to whom much has been entrusted, even more will be demanded. So how do we get to the good soil consciousness? Well, first of all, we have to become a constructive thinker. And that's much more than becoming a positive thinker. So positive thinking is working on the mental level, and we work on the mental level really well. Some of us are constantly in our head on that mental level. And that's how we try to demonstrate is through the mental level. But constructive thinking is more than that. Constructive thinking is positive, but it's the type of thinking that says to the indwelling spirit, not my will, but thine be done. The positive level, we say to God, I want you to work through me. And what we realize in that is that the principles of God must come first. Not our wish list. Not what we think what we want God for us, God wants for us. Is what the principles must come first. I think I just kind of said all of that wrong, and I apologize. I will say it clearer this time. We can't bring our agenda into it. We open ourselves, we open our hearts, and we say, here I am, God, not my will, but thine be done. And we utilize the principles, and they must come first in our life. Our efforts to apply principle must come before our personal plans, our opinions, or our desires. And it must surely become before any advantages and gains. So one will truly become prosperous. One will truly grow. One will grow in awareness and grow in consciousness when they're willing to give with no thought of return. And this must be the first thing the first thing, and then we will receive. Secondly, we got to clean up our emotions. We got to get rid of doubt and fear, greed, anger, and selfishness. We must overcome timidity. This is Jim Lewis's word. We must overcome timidity and must cease our human tendency to depreciate ourselves. Do you ever put yourself down? Do you ever find yourself saying, what am I doing wrong? Do you ever find yourself comparing yourself to someone else? Do you ever get angry at yourself because you just got angry at someone else? Yeah, all of those pieces, we have to let go of that. We have to appreciate ourselves. We have to honor ourselves. We have to affirm ourselves. We must become strong emotionally and not let the human ego, with all its desires and passions, influence us. And we must remember that consciousness is the sum of all that we think and feel. It includes this life and the many lives we've had before this one. So we must learn to think constructively about everyone and everything, and that applies to our feelings. Today on our call, we had our weekly call, and we were talking about surrendering sometimes to the human emotions that we're experiencing of sadness or feeling down or fear. And I was sharing that Reverend Ann told me once that you got to feel it. You got to let yourself feel it so that you can lay it down. And sometimes, for the most part, I keep things in perspective. I hold on to truth and the truth in my life, and that brings me much joy and much comfort and much solace. But every once in a while, I feel afraid, or I feel scared, or I feel sad. And I allow myself to feel that. I call it my time of laying down. I just lay down, let it happen. And once it comes out of my system, it's usually within a half hour. Sometimes it takes an hour. Yeah. But I let it happen. And we must give ourselves permission. The third thing is that we have to have total self-honesty. We must be honest in our dealing with others. Instead of seeking to take advantage of them, we must seek to give advantage. To do this, we must seek to do more, give more, and be of more service. So many of us hold back, and this restricts the growth of our consciousness. We are a ministry of people. The whole point of our ministry is to minister to one another. While I may be your pastor, you are the ministers. And so we must seek to give to each other, not just to our church family, but to the world. And I love watching this happen in the world right now. There's a whole lot of giving going on, and it warms my heart. It encourages me. We're reminded as we continue to develop this consciousness that we remember what Paul said in Philippians 4. Whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are perfect, pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are good report, if there's be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. Think on these things. Because these are our divine ideas, and we seek to plant our divine ideas. We're seeking to bring these ideas into manifestation, substance into form, concentration into consecration. And we do this because this is our inheritance from Source. We nurture our soil to fertilize it so we can withstand the drought or conditions of disease and lack. We see conditions for what they are. They're human challenges. They are temporarily here, and they daunt us for a while, but we are undaunted through the truth that fortifies us. Each and every one of us is equipped in our spiritual framework, within our DNA, to reframe, refocus, reboot, reimagine, and recreate the power of truth that constructively works. And this time right now is our opportunity to nurture soil and plant seeds of divine ideas. But it's going to take a few things from us. First, willingness to open our heart and our mind to review our thoughts, our opinions, and our habits. To review them not through a subjective view, but an objective view. We come into an objective idea of what truth does our thoughts really hold? What truth, not opinion, do our opinions hold? What truth does our habits hold? Not the facts of them, but the truth of them, the spiritual truth. Next, we must surrender that which does not serve our highest good to God. We got to surrender. We have to let go. Third, we have to fertilize our thoughts and emotions that promote our highest good. We continue to speak those words and feel those feelings. And when something other than that shows up, we stop. We stop. And we ask ourselves, is this my highest good? And we find a way to go to that place. And often, that way is through our spiritual practice. And then we continuously weed out error thinking and actions. Take them out. When they come up, we call them for what they are. And we let go of them because they have no truth. And finally, we celebrate our harvest. We celebrate the bounty that comes forward. And we do that by remaining grateful. We stay in a position, an attitude, a heartfelt space of gratitude. In closing, I want to share a short poem that I found in a selection of Unity poems by a woman named Della Adams Leitner. The poem is titled Revealed. The daffodil is in the bulb, the pansy and the seed, awaiting soil and rain and sun, incentives that they need. Your special talent lies within. God placed the pattern there. Give it the sunshine of your work, the raindrops of your prayer. And in the beauty that will be, your soul shall find its own, the loveliness that God designed, to its perfection grown. God bless you. Amen.
When I smile, it's the joy overflowing from you. When I smile, it's the joy overflowing from you. What can I say? How can I thank you for the day? Oh God, my blessings are overflowing now. When I cry, it's the love overflowing from you. When I cry, it's the love overflowing from you. What can I say? How can I thank you for the day? Oh God, my blessings are overflowing now. No words, no words. You already know the secrets of my soul, 'cause I'm a part of you. No words, no words. You're the sacred truth in everything I see and everything I ever do. When I sing, it's the song overflowing, the song overflowing from you. When I sing, it's the song overflowing, the song overflowing from you. What can I say? How can I thank you for the day? Oh God, my blessings are overflowing. My blessings are overflowing. My blessings are overflowing now. No words, no words, no words, no words.
Thank you, Jody. That was amazing. We have a couple of announcements that we want to share with you. You can always contact Silent Unity. They are available to you at this number, 800-NOW-PRAY. That's 800-669-7729. Anytime you feel like you need a lift or prayer support, they are there for you and working with you. It's a wonderful, affirming time. We would like to pray with you here. Your chaplains are working in prayer with you every single day. If you have prayer requests, you can call them into the office here, and we will definitely have the chaplains either get a hold of you or include your prayers on our daily prayer. The number here is 619-579-9586. We would also like you to be connected by our newsletter. We're going to need your email. If you are not receiving the newsletter right now, please let us know. There's a lot of great information in there, and it's a great way for us to stay in touch. Please call the office. We thank you for your continued support. Please send your tithings and offerings to us here at the Unity Church of El Cajon, 311 Highland Avenue in El Cajon, California, 92020. You can call in your financial gift. If you don't want to send it by mail, we do accept all major credit cards. Call us at 619-579-9586. We are also doing a book study Fridays at 12 noon on Lessons in Truth. You are welcome to join us. We've been doing this for a couple of weeks. Great group of people, great time of fellowship. Just send an email to the office letting them know that you want to be a part of that. The prayer chaplains are going to be available every week for prayer via Zoom, starting on Wednesday at 1 p.m. And you can also join us in the morning on Sunday for a 10 a.m. Zoom session. It's a chance for us to meet with one another live and kind of in person and get a chance to fellowship and share prayers and a beautiful message. And now we will let Jody lead us in our peace song.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
The prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Amen. Have a great week, everyone. We love you. We miss you. We behold the Christ in you. Amen.